The My Hero Academia fandom is in absolute shambles as the heartbreaking news of Bakugo's apparent death was just revealed in My Hero Academia chapter 362. How can the author kill off the most popular character in the entire series? Well, he can't. And he didn't. Bakugo will live on and continue to play a major role in the story, and it all revolves around the mysterious second user of One For All and his true identity. I'm Truth Hero, and welcome back to another My Hero Academia theory. Today we discuss new evidence for the very real possibility that Bakugo is the second user of One For All, and how this helps him transcend his imminent death. Before we dive into the new evidence revealed in the latest chapter of My Hero Academia, which you can watch a full breakdown of that here, let's first go over what we know about the second user of One For All. The second vestige has an appearance strikingly similar to Bakugo's and has been seen with gauntlets on his arms like the one Bakugo uses for his attacks. He led a resistance movement against All For One during the peak of his power and wasn't afraid to kill anyone who got in his way. He initially tried to kill Yoichi, the first user, for his connection to the villain, but decided to spare him, ultimately leading to the creation and passing on of One For All. When Deku met the vestiges, he, along with the third user, rejected Midoriya for his optimistic demeanor, but was later convinced by Yoichi to give him a chance. Other than this, his quirk or meta ability and proficiency with One For All are unknown. Flash forward to the current chapter, and while Bakugo is attacking Shigaraki and All For One with his special move Cluster Bomb at 100%, Shigaraki and All For One become angry and rattled, seeing the image of the second user of One For All. Far be it from me to believe All For One would get startled simply because of a similarity in appearance. He's clearly recognizing the power of the second user, the intimidating man who went toe-to-toe with him at his strongest. Why am I losing my cool against some normie heroes that don't even possess One For All? Shigaraki wonders. Well, perhaps the hero Dynamite does possess it, or rather did in the past, as the second user. Bakugo's move Cluster Bomb and its side effect of forcing sweat to disperse and cause detonations throughout his body is an incredibly powerful yet dangerous technique, and was truly his last-ditch effort against Shigaraki. The second user of One For All warns Deku about using his meta ability, telling Deku it is quite dangerous to use it at its max output and should be saved as a last resort, especially since it is mixed with One For All. Perhaps this meta ability the second user was referring to is Bakugo's explosion quirk, since it's actually his quirk and he knows firsthand from his battle with Shigaraki the dangers of going 100% with it. Besides these pieces of evidence, there's also the All Might problem. If Bakugo is not the second user of One For All, then how can he possibly see the vestige of All Might seemingly welcoming him home as he's close to death? This suggests Bakugo has used One For All in the past, and All Might's aura is inviting him to rejoin the pantheon of vestiges. Or is this Horikoshi confirming explicitly in the manga that the events of the Heroes Rising movie where Bakugo momentarily held One For All to defeat 9 is in fact canon? Whatever the case, it actually doesn't matter. The important thing is that Bakugo has held One For All, knows how it works, and knows that it can be transferred from person to person. There are a few minor details like Bakugo's face getting pretty torn up in this battle, and the scar the second user wears on his face. Although I imagine if you're anyone who went toe-to-toe with the King of Villains, you're bound to get a few bruises. There's also some parallels between the first and second user and Deku and Bakugo. Look at this scene where the second user helps number 1 to his feet, deciding to show him mercy. This would finally allow Bakugo to help Deku up for a change as a parallel to the river scene from the opening act, and I can't imagine Deku wouldn't fall down at least once, taking on the monstrosity that is Shigaraki. Now the only question that remains is, how does Bakugo live from his injuries and become the second user? If Bakugo were to truly die here, he would have only used One For All temporarily in the present when events from the movie took place, so despite his heart stopping or exploding, Bakugo needs to live. Unless Tamaki Yamajiki is down with eating a piece of Bakugo, which I doubt it, and can manifest a human heart, and the heroes can ward off Shigaraki long enough to give Bakugo a heart transplant on the battlefield, the only characters capable of healing Bakugo's injuries right now, in an instant, are Overhaul and Eri. God help us. Don't get too excited, okay? He's not sticking around for very long. Eri could certainly rewind Bakugo to heal him, and with Monoma and Aizawa's quirks in play, could be controlled so that she doesn't turn him into a monkey or a single cell accidentally. But do remember, Monoma and Aizawa are a bit tied up right now. Given this, I predict Eri will have a Quirk Awakening and unlock her quirk's true nature, the ability to rewind a person through time. As I mentioned in my previous chapter review, a Quirk Awakening requires someone to go through a very traumatic or emotional experience, often one of life and death. Seeing the UA students, her friends, in desperation against the villains, and perhaps Overhaul again if he was attempting to repair Bakugo, might trigger Eri's emotions enough for this to happen. Shigaraki relived memories he repressed of his family, and in doing so, stopped suppressing the true nature of his decay quirk, unlocking its true, lethal power. If there is anyone with unhealed trauma and repressed memories in the series, it is Eri. If she confronts Overhaul and stops suppressing her power, as we've seen her be ashamed of her own quirk, she could do extraordinary things. Now, would Horikoshi go the Avengers route and pull time travel? I'm not sure, but he already put a nod to the Marvel series in the latest chapter. That's right, looking at you, Mr. Trading Cards. Bakugo going back in time would also help to explain how the first user even transferred One for All in the first place. One doesn't really stumble upon the phenomena of eating a hair or some blood and passing on their own quirk. Now I know what you're thinking, but Truth Hero, didn't you just say that the second user tried to kill Yoichi? Why would Bakugo do this? How could he become so cold? Why try to stop One for All from being transferred? Simple, Bakugo has seen the damage One for All can do by inheriting it from Deku briefly in the movie, and as we've explained, that's canon. Bakugo may realize that if Deku possesses One for All in the future, or tries to pass it on, even temporarily, it may be too much of a danger to the world, especially if it was stolen by someone like Shigaraki. This explains why the second user, Bakugo, initially rejected Deku, as he knows Deku is the type to try and save the villain and put himself in unnecessarily dangerous situations with One for All. The Vestiges even tell Deku in their secret meeting, "You cannot think of Shigaraki as Nana's grandson. He must be stopped at all costs." The change of heart and sparing of Yoichi's life would come when Bakugo realizes that even with his experience and amazing explosion quirk, he can't take down All for One, and the only hope for the future is to let the One for All quirk cultivate its power through time by being passed down person to person. Now, I'll fully admit that there are some liberties with this theory, mainly the time travel aspect, and I myself am generally not a fan of this mechanic or having redos. It has to be something that's done correctly and with consequences. However, Eri or even Overhaul cannot just heal Bakugo without sending him back in time or having some huge consequence to Bakugo. Otherwise, his heart stopping was for nothing, and healing him was some Deus Ex Machina letdown. Horikoshi is rarely ever lazy in his writing. He's also very thorough about what he shows and what he hides. The only major mystery left in My Hero Academia is the second user, so there must be a dramatic reveal to the question, who is he? To me, there's no better answer than Bakugo. This allows Bakugo to die, or at least leave the heroes and his friends, but still retain an integral role in the story as an obviously important character in him being the second user. Also, it means that Deku gets to use Bakugo's explosion quirk, which would be awesome. But what do you think? Will Bakugo be sent back in time by Eri, with Eri even, and become the second user of One for All? Or will he die here? Or perhaps will he find a way to live on? Let me know your theories down below in the comments. And until next time, Plus Ultra.